Okay, so I just explained about the recording that we were going to record this, and sort of gave the overview of this being a restorative empathy circle process and how that works. And so what we do in this part is kind of a pre-circle, and it's just for me to listen to you, just whatever's up for you about the issues that you're dealing with there in XR Santa Cruz. And it's just, I'm not giving advice or anything, just listening to kind of hear you out and have you feel heard to your satisfaction before we, before you decide if you want to go into a full, circle with the others. So, and I'll say I'm feeling a little anxiety just about other personal kind of issues, so I'm kind of bringing that to the space. So I just want to be open and transparent about that too. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you taking time for our chapter, and I recognize that time is one of our precious resources, and I'm like amazed and really grateful. Thank you.
So hearing that appreciation and gratitude for taking the time to support your chapter.
Yeah. I guess what's up for me right now is I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling afraid mostly that I really don't want Sky to leave our chapter. And I really just want to resolve. I personally feel, I'm part of what we've been calling the stewardship working group. I'm one of the people who came in 1 month after Amy started XR in Santa Cruz, or Amy and Andrew, I guess. I'm not exactly sure. And I'm part of the team that's been overwhelmed, not a lot of capacity to take care of things in any perfect kind of way. Everyone's saying we should be doing SOS, and it's okay, yeah, who's going to go and get the training and bring it back to us and teach it to us when we want to do an action so we can recruit people, and let's just, So I'm been doing that with this team. And then when Sky came in, I'm just whoa, you have a different level of XR in you that I really am happy about. Who are you? What's going on? So then I kind of started to buddy with her, and I like that. Yet I don't know. I feel like I'm really on both sides of the situation right now. Not that, there's sort of sides, but not fully. I think we all want the same thing, but I'm scared that she's going to leave because I feel that she wants, I don't know. It's because it's not going to happen overnight for her. And I'm scared that's not good enough for her and she's going to leave. And I'm just fuck. And so then I want to try and make it good enough for her right away. I'm I want to do everything that I can do, and
I reflect that fact first,
what
I'm kind of hearing that it's quite a bit. So you were part of the XR to be pretty quick in the beginning of it, and it's been very chaotic, a lot going on. Sounds like there's a bit of overwhelm to just all that needs to be done. And then Sky came in, and you're excited about what she offered, and you have some real fears that she might leave, and so some real concerns and fears about that. And it's just you're sort of seeing her point of view, sort of seeing it. It's sort of being on both sides, even though that doesn't quite cover. Maybe you're seeing both sides of it, and you're just kind of wanting to find some kind of resolution or something within that. You don't really don't want her to leave.
Yeah.
Oh, and then she's also bringing a lot too, has a different level of sort of XR skills or qualities or something that she's bringing that sounds like perhaps you value, or I'm not quite sure there.
Yeah, and I guess like what's coming up for me is like, if we can't find a way to forgive each other for like, you know, I would say like, you know, from some people, like how Sky's reactivity is strong. And for example, on the Google Doc that she shredded to pieces, it wasn't just technical shreds. It was like, this is exactly what's wrong with XR, the XR Santa Cruz, and like this very sort of unskilled communication, like obviously angry, obviously lashing out kind of communication. But for me, I understood why. I was like, she's acting so pissed right now, and it's coming across as like not an XR principle. She's definitely like blamey, shamey, like not coming with appreciation or curiosity, or believing that, you know, the person who wrote the document is coming from like his best place. Nicer,
Oh,
but she wasn't.
you broke
And
up for a second there. Might just
okay,
re-say the last sentence.
the last sentence
Maybe
was,
I'll just say what I
yeah.
heard. So far, I heard that somebody wrote a document and she kind of tore it apart, and there was a lot of sort of blaming and shaming. You can understand why she's doing it, but it's not really along the XR principles either. So
Yeah. And at the same time, I really understood, because it was exactly the same pattern. It was like she had brought a proposal to our core group, which is sort of like the anchor, I guess it's called, or where the different working groups coordinators meet and we make decisions about things. And she brought a proposal about different structures and self-organizing systems and different things in our XR Santa Cruz that she doesn't think is going well and she'd like to see change. And then it was like, this person made a document saying like, just we've been hearing that people want more transparency on how XR Santa Cruz works. So he made this document, but he basically titled the document like, this is how XR Santa Cruz works. But a lot of the things that were in there is like how we want it to work, including the ideas that she gave us through that slideshow. But it wasn't like in collaboration with her and saying like, this is how we're moving towards it. So she was like, what the fuck? Like, how do you just put this out there like this is how we're already working and we are so far from it? And he's like, then I talked to him about that, and he's like, yeah, I shouldn't have really said it like that, but I made a mistake, like, or I shouldn't, you know. And I'm like, well, so it's like, I feel like I want them both to say sorry. I want him to say like, I'm sorry for that, and I want her to say, I'm sorry that I really overreacted and was like too blaming with my approach. I just want them both to say sorry. I want us to move
yeah.
forward. Like,
So there's kind of stuff on both sides. One person is doing something with a document, but it sounds like it was the whole pattern of that kind of happening with Skies too. She suggests something, it gets kind of co-opted, then it kind of comes out and she gets upset and then says something else. So it seems to be a pattern. And you would just like to get it kind of resolved, and for both sides to kind of understand each other and kind of apologize and
right.
yeah.
I mean, I take responsibility. So I was there at the core meeting when she made this proposal. And it was sort of, it wasn't the best time to hear this news. Like, we're fucking up and these are the ways we're fucking up. But she also said, these are the ways you guys are awesome. Like, it was a great proposal, or a great presentation that she made. But like, I didn't respond immediately because we were preparing for a big Chase Bank action. But that's my excuse, right? But like, I feel like XR Santa Cruz, we haven't created a feedback system of like, when we get feedback from one of our members, what is the process that we go through? Like, and I felt like one person met with her, and then I wasn't there when I heard how that meeting went. And then there was like some other mediation that happened between one of the person that is in the conflict with her, who ended up then writing this other document. And the whole reason why they had the mediation was because she had been preparing a different document with two other people, and they had included him on the email about like, but didn't ask him for feedback. He was just included on the email. I'm looping in this person. And then he takes that document and writes in red, does that suggestion editing thing you can do on Google Doc, and starts Xing things out and writing things in red. And he was never asked to do that. And so that was like one of the beginnings. So then it just like kept happening. So, and I had talked to Sky about some of those things and why she was upset. So it's just like, why did it happen again? And I don't want to undermine him either. Like, I don't think that he's really in a conscious way trying to harm her or push her down. Like, I don't think that I don't understand really. And then I feel responsible. Like, oh, how could I have stepped in? And even when I was at the stewardship meeting and there was a talk about like this navigation guide that he created, I was like, wait, did I miss a week? Like, who said he could even make this? And what is it again? And isn't that like what Sky's proposed? Like, I just felt, I'm just like,
Mm.
I blame myself. And I mean, not for everything. I think we all have, I mean, I take responsibility for certain parts where I could have paused. And even when Antoinette, who I hope maybe you're going to get a session with her before we do it, went to that ad hoc meeting and told them, oh, don't worry, we're going to do your proposal. And this is what we propose, and went on and on to talk about it. And then when I found out that's what happened at the meeting, I was like, that's not what she was supposed to do. Like, I just feel like there's so many little places where things didn't get handled well with like clear thinking and with enough information. And so like that's one layer of it, but then there is another layer that Sky is pointing out, like what's going on with hierarchy and what's going on with like people in power who aren't like, do not understand decentralization and do not understand this other thing. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know if that's true. Like, I don't know how deeply rooted that is. And if it is, it's unconscious. And how do we break that? That's like excites me.
Mm-hmm. I can pause. You broke up. So it seems like periodically your video is freezing. So I'm just checking if you're still there. It does seem to come back. Okay, I was just saying your video freezes for about 15 seconds and then you come back. So, yeah, so what I'm hearing is that you're seeing multiple, at least two layers to this conflict, or sort of, and the initial layer is that there's, it sounds like no real process for dealing, talking through issues and dealing sort of a regenerative process for dealing with issues. That it tends to be more ad hoc. There's all this kind of ad hoc, dialogue going on, and there seems to be a lot of miscommunication kind of happening within that. And you think people have good intentions, like you're not, wanting to blame them, and you're taking some responsibility too for, kind of contributing to this and maybe not having, cleaned up the disconnections, or and even then it sounds like you're kind of overwhelmed too with all the kind of juggling all the ad hoc kind of aspects of it.
Yeah. And
oh, and the other part was the underlying power structure, if that's what Sky is mentioning, and you're not sure about, what's really going on with about that. So it's feeling unclear about that part.
Like, I can only know if I can barely be aware if I'm doing that, right? Like, it's an ingrained pattern of growing up in a hierarchical society and a patriarchal society, and for me, and so and I haven't, like, been in business before. Like I've worked for myself as a massage therapist and a life coach for the last like 20 years. I haven't been in these kind of like small organizations, so I don't feel like I have a lot of experience or like really learned about how I do leadership or how like, so it's all, I feel like it's all very new to me too. And so I can't really speak for like, oh, is Antoinette or Michael or Amy, like, are they doing this on purpose or do they have this unconsciously going on? Like, I don't really know, but all I know is that I did it. And then somebody pointed out, like, Megan, remember I made this proposal, and then all of a sudden you're in the outreach and you're a coordinator of outreach. And then you're starting to organize making all these calls to our 500 members on the email list. I was like, right. Like I didn't like shit. Like of course I just thought like, well, that's a great idea. Let's just start doing it while his whole proposal goes through and gets all perfected or whatever the fuck it has to do through the bureaucracy. We should just start making phone calls. But like that kind of thinking is not, I'm like, that's not respecting this new person who's coming to us with an idea, you know? So I'm just learning. So there's this place where I have empathy for whoever else is doing that too, you know? And I think it's like, okay, that's good that we're pausing to learn and be like, how can someone feel how can someone feel welcomed into this kind of tight-knit group that we've formed because we're like, oh my gosh, we're the only ones who are like, feel like we're dedicated so far. How can they get in? But we need people. So it's just like, how can they feel respected and valued if they come in with an idea and we take pieces of it and start running with it? And we're like, yeah, we'll get to your proposal next week. But we're not, it's not like we're consciously trying to push it away. It's just, I'm just keep doing this. It's like,
Yeah, it's kind of overwhelmed with kind of all the
yeah.
juggling that kind of, since you've been sort of a independent, you know, working independently, working in groups seems maybe a bit overwhelming, and you're not sure like what is sort of, you know, authoritarian and sort of learning those skills, and you can take responsibility for yourself when someone points it out. So, but it's like, yeah, it seems like constantly too much, kind of to juggle this and learn all these processes. But you do want to see that new people, you need to bring them in and be able to empathize with them, and how do you do that when you have this tightly knit group? So you're saying that something, because you need more people too to come in. So you're trying to juggle all that. Sounds like you don't have any real, just feeling a lot of overwhelm and don't have any procedures and processes and practices to, you know, kind of untangle this issue.
Right. And then it's like on top of that, it's like, well, you know, it's this whole thing with XR. It's like, how much time do we spend on personal, regenerative, life-sustaining communications? How much time do we spend weaving those procedures through our organization, and how much time do we spend like planning actions, making signs, dropping banners, like to save the world? Like, so I mean, to me, it makes sense. We're running around with, you know, like basically we started and then it was like the climate strike. And we were just like, wow, okay, we're doing all the stuff. We're doing. And it just makes sense now. It's like, okay, we have to have a regenerative culture as we do this. And if it takes us longer, that's part of what XR is. Like we are building the boat as we're also planning the path that the boat goes on at the same time. So
yeah, so you see that you've been very action oriented, and it's been sort of a helter skelter, lot going on, and you do see the importance of a sort of regen, taking time, working, building relationships, and maybe seeing that might be something to spend more time on, like you're doing here. You're doing this empathic listening process, so it's like take more time for this empathic listening and empathic relationship building.
Mm. I called one of the people who's it's weird. I feel weird being recorded and saying someone's name. So I don't know, with one of the persons that Michael or that Sky is having the like a more part of the who had like the actual, that's not really true, but what I want to say, some of the document stuff with, I'll just say.
Uh-huh.
And he currently isn't willing to do the empathy circle. He's in the co-counseling community, and they have very strict rules in that community. And he said he doesn't think this is a good idea. I'm like, I was just really upset about that. And it's like, why won't you do it? Like, you're so part of this. Like, I want you to be there. Like, it feels really important to all of XR. Like, and we talked for like half an hour yesterday, and I just feel sad and I feel angry, and even the things that he told me, why I feel like that should be told in the whole group. And that feels really unfair. And I'm supposed to just hold that information and like not tell everyone like that. It's just,
So feeling some real sadness about talking with this person who doesn't want to take part because he has, sounds like a sort of a confidentiality maybe aspect within co-counseling. And you talk to him trying to understand it, and that it sounds like maybe that you weren't supposed to talk either, or and you just sort of feel like why shouldn't I, and to be open and to be able to share that instead of kind of holding it all in.
I guess, I mean, he didn't tell me that we weren't doing like a co-counseling session during that phone call. And, you know, I don't feel like we had an agreement that I couldn't tell anyone, but it also feels, I guess I could get clarity about that from him.
So is it kind of sadness about not being willing to be open and share, or
Yeah,
something about, hey,
I just, and
you're open, you're free, or it releases energy, it's like it feels better kind of thing. This is so much a better way to be than, you know, having it kind of locked in and hidden and, you know, closed off.
yeah, but I'm also, what I got from the one thing that I feel like I can just share right here is like what I got is that he feels really personally attacked. Like, I don't feel personally attacked. I mean, I guess I partially do, but I also feel like I'm really owning like what I have contributed to this dynamic, um and so I don't feel personally attacked. But I mean, it was his document. Like, you know, there were at least two things where it was like somewhat personally about him. So I get that. But I'm like, what's the big fear? Like, you think we're all going to gang up on you if it's in a group, or like, you can't handle that? And I also feel like, fuck you. You fucking can't handle that. Like, step up to the plate, dude. Like, I feel mad too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad, but then it turns into like anger. Like, fucking, you're a grown man. Like, get on this fucking call and be a man. And like, it's not even personal. Even if it's just, don't you get it? How much personal growth work have you done? Like, don't you get when someone's pointing the finger at you, it's not really you. It's like, you're her dad or whatever. Like, step in, come on. Like, let's play the roles for each other so we can grow. ah,
Yeah, it's like
shit,
before that you got the sadness, then it's like into anger, like just step up to
ah,
the plate, do this. It's don't take it so personally, even though which just sounds like what he's doing. It's like, detach from that a little bit and there's
ah,
more deeper issues here than, really that's just your personal being attacked.
ah,
Face it and let's deal with it. And yeah.
ah, fuck. Oh, everyone just should do what I say. They should just all
Yeah.
take my advice. Like, come on. Ah, ah.
Just do this. This is the way to go.
Ah. 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 Hmm. Hmm. I was tempted earlier like after talking with him yesterday, like part of the coaching model that I've been trained in is a lot. Well, there is a lot of empathic listening that happens in that because, of course, it's so powerful. And then there's another piece that's, looking at the situation and going, oh, a few different things like how can I take responsibility for my part? Like, what am I how did I contribute to this? And then what stories am I making up about who, including myself, like, and labeling them as stories. So we can just like clear those, and question like, oh, that might not even be true, my story, but to be able to share them sometimes helps. So I was gonna like put out an email to everyone and be like, is anybody willing to play this game with me? Like, what do you want to take where do you feel like you can just own responsibility for however you might have contributed to any of the dynamic that's going on? Like, let's just like email it out and own it. I own this part. I own this. I own this. I own this. I'm responsible for this. I'm responsible for this. And I'm making up these stories, and then I held back because I was like, no, just wait. You're getting them in front of the empathy circle. Like, let it do its magic. This is XR's trying on this thing. But I guess I feel like, I don't know why I feel like there's so much at stake, but I do. Like, I guess I'm making up a story that, okay, so this is good. So I'm making up a story that if Sky leaves, if like the empathy circle doesn't go well, where there's more understanding and then somehow there's like a resolution or oh, we have a cool creative ideas about how we can collaborate and move forward in a way that feels mutually good for everyone, then like XR has failed. And there's no way, if we can't resolve this in this small group of people who are trying to use XR to sustain more life rather than eradicate more life, then who the fuck can? Like,
Mm.
so there's this place of, I guess I'm like, I have that level of attachment to not just like the empathy circle as like it's all about the empathy circle, but about like our group. Like, if we can't work this out, like, then I guess I just feel like it's just like a microcosm,
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that's why I have like energy about it.
Yeah, you've got a lot of energy around this process because you see if Sky leaves just in this small group, if there's this conflict and Sky ends up leaving, it'll be sort of a failure of the whole group, and you're trying to create an alternative way of being, and here if you can't even get it right in in this group sounds pretty hopeless. And before that, there was another part of if everyone can just take their responsibility for what they're contributing, like have that sense of it's not just all the other person, but we all have a role and some responsibility. And
Yeah, we
that could
don't.
be sort of a way forward, kind of out of this
Right, we don't have to get
mess.
caught up in like, well, who's more responsible? Like,
Mm-hmm.
fuck that bullshit. Fuck that victim, villain, hero drama triangle. Like, fuck that. Just like, ah. So then I'm like, can that be woven into the empathy circle? Is there like a round of the circle that's like, oh, I've noticed, like by listening to everyone, like I noticed where I might have been able to not contribute, but I did, and this is what I did. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, will that quality of self-responsibility kind of come into the empathic listening sort of process? And
Yeah.
is that, because it sounds like something you really value, see that as a, constructive way forward, and hope that we can, bring that quality in with the empathy circle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it can also be something that I could bring to the group afterwards as a separate, I don't, need the empathy circle to solve all of our problems. The way I kind of see it, I don't know if this is, I mean, it's when Tonya said, like, the purpose of it is for conflict resolution. And I was like, maybe that's not exact. I don't want to quote her. But it seems to me like it's like a path on the process of conflict resolution more to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, just from working with couples, it's like we can do the empathy, and that does do a lot. And then there's often more.
You see that this is sort of like the first step, and then there's all kinds of other steps kind of on that pathway to, constructively moving forward. And, mutual responsibility is certainly on that pathway to more constructive relationships.
Right. And that's why I just want him to be on it, because he's going to miss so much. And we're going to miss hearing from him. And I'm fucking pissed about it. I'm really mad. I'm really fucking mad.
Yeah. Yeah, like really angry that he doesn't want to take part, and it's going to be like a loss. And that not be able to hear his voice in the mix. Maybe some anger will get him to do it. If I'm just angry enough, I can get him to do it. He'll say, yes, I will do it. You're so angry.
No, he responds to guilt, so I could guilt him, but that's fucked up. So I'm not going to do that.
So you have other motivations. Guilt might work better on him. So
I'll just get everyone to agree with me, and then we'll just gang up on him on a big text and be like, Michael, if you don't do it, we're all not going to do it because we don't think it's worth it unless you do it with us.
You're kind of coming up with all kinds of different strategies of how you can bring him into the process. You got anger, you got guilt, you got sort of ganging up on him. So I just kind of creatively thinking up ideas of how to get him involved.
Just like thinking, like, what is this familiar, like, from my childhood? Like, what is going on right here? If only, then everything will be okay. If only. I think it's like from just feeling like I was always like a in between with my parents when they would have miscommunications, and I would just be able to see both sides, and like, just if you guys would only just get each other a little bit more, if you only just like actually you're on the same team, like I feel like it might be bringing up some of that stuff from my childhood. That's part of why it's so hot. And I'm like, I want to fix it. You just want to fix it.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're trying to sort of come back, like this dynamic that you're living in, like where does this come from? Where did it sort of it originate? And maybe it's with your parents, you were the person that could see all of the sides and, wanting to kind of fix it and get people together, get the different parties together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just don't want, I guess, and also just in that, like, I don't want anyone to feel alienated. Like, I feel like both of them sort of feel like they're not okay in some way. And I'm like, no, XR is not about that. XR is about we accept everyone and every part of everyone. And the part that it doesn't say, but that I can read between the lines is like, and what do we do when that part, when we feel hurt by a certain part?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we do that? What do? We do empathy circles. Like, can we forgive? Can we give someone a second chance? Like, where are our boundaries with that? Like, you know, I think that he has a lot of experience being in organizations where there's been certain kinds of people, personality types, or certain issues where it's like they tried to do empathy and it just didn't work, and it can like ruin an organization from someone's just tearing down structures that are already in an organization because they think theirs are better, and think maybe there's some trauma there for him, and so he's just like, we got to be as strong. Like, I can see red flags of something, and I don't personally have that. I don't have that kind of background. Just a bummer.
Yeah. So at the core, you'd like to see Extinction Rebellion, so about, you know, mutual connection, mutual understanding, sort of an empathic relating, and instead you have two parties who feel very alienated, and you're kind of, for the one person, you're have some understanding of why what his fears and concerns are, that being in an organization that where they kind of tried to bring in empathic listening or something, and it just all kind of blew up. So so having some understanding of maybe his reticence to take part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the situation.
I feel glad though that, you know, someone who wasn't going to take part in the circle, I did text her and say, I just texted everyone and said, are you going to participate or not? I'm just trying to get a head count. And then she said, well, I just don't have time to do the pre. And then she canceled an actions prep working group meeting. And I was like, you might have time now. So.
Yeah. So maybe a little celebration that
Yeah.
somebody else, you know, there's people who don't want to take part, and slowly kind of chipping away at that. And one person is willing to take
They're
part
listening
now.
to me.
They're listening. Somebody's listening. Yeah. Feels good when somebody listens.
And many layered yes to that. Yeah. Yeah. I feel some release and gratitude to you, Edwin, for listening and being a leader in what you're doing and promoting, you know, just doing your good work. Yeah, I think I feel complete.
Okay. Yeah. So hearing that gratitude for, you know, offering the listening and, you know, doing what we're doing here, and you're complete with the pre-circle, and sounds like you're ready to take part in the circle, and we can bring all the parties together. You know, I'll continue listening to whoever wants to be heard, you know, and for the pre-circles, and then we'll bring everyone together for the actual circle. So
yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, then we're done, and I'm